Welcome to Single Leg Parlay. It is the College Week 7 preview. We got a lot of games. We have 3 massive college football games. This is the one weekend where everyone jokes about, like, if you schedule your wedding during college football weekend, you're a jerk. This weekend, you'd be a jerk, right? As someone who got married during college football season, I understand of the jerkish behavior. And the heart
it's not even like the accidental, like, no one thought these teams were going to be good this week when we scheduled this a year ago. This is, number 2 versus number 3, and they've been top 5 all year. So, yeah.
No, this is loser leaves town weekend. That's what I'm going to call it. Loser leaves town. There are some massive games on the schedule, and we're going to break them all down. But before we do anything, I got Al to the left of me, Andy to the right. Beer. Let's drink.
Cheers.
Cheers. Every time you say that, I want to start singing Stuck in the Middle.
Yeah. Just for you, then, baby. Crazy weekend last week in the SEC. Is anyone in the SEC good? I don't know. You know what? Let's start off with a game of fraud or not fraud before we get in these games. Big Ten and SEC, I understand they're the money too. I don't know. It looks like the money ain't coming home. Like this question. Andy, is Michigan Michigan, fraud or not fraud?
Fraud. Their defense is fine, but they can't get it figured out on offense. They can't decide who their quarterback is going to be. Everybody's bad. They're frauds.
Yeah.
Simple enough. USC, fraud or not fraud? Al.
I'm going to say fraud, but I'm also going to bet them this weekend against the number 4 team in the country. So I don't know. I think I just don't like them. That's it.
If the criteria is national championship, then they're frauds. But I think they're a fine football team. They're going to win most of their games. So I'm going to go not fraud.
Andy, you sound like a lawyer defending a guy who just like T-boned a family, like on a DUI arrest. Like,
definitely.
Yeah, I think he's a fine, upstanding citizen. He just made a mistake.
I don't think they're frauds. I thought there would be an 8-4 team, and they look like an 8-4 team. To Andy's point, I don't think they're going to be like a natty winner.
Yeah,
but their defense is so much better this year.
Yes.
Their offense looks competent. They look organized. They're not doing as much of the dumb shit anymore. I think they're getting better. I'm saying not fraud.
I think you describing them as an 8-4 team is like perfect. I think they are a team that can lose one game on a Pac-12 schedule, but they're on a Big Ten schedule, and it's a different schedule, and they're gonna have to make some changes to their roster build.
So this next one hurts me because last year I was a giant proponent for this team. Loved them. I beat the drum for them. This year they're looking a little bit fraudish. Mizzou, Andy, fraud or not fraud?
Yeah, I'm going to say fraud. They struggled to get the wins the last couple of weeks in a row. I think 2 overtime wins against Boston College and Vanderbilt. And then they got totally exposed this week. So it's become a pattern, and I'm going to say that makes them frauds.
Yeah. Without knowing a lick about their roster build last year versus this year, I feel like last year's roster was a lot. Like, I think they were a better team last year than this year.
Yeah, they lost Cody Schrager. If I pulled this name out of my ass, no, that's not it. Mizzou had a really good running back. Cody Schrader. I was really close.
Yeah, you pretty much did pull it out of your ass. That's crazy.
Yeah.
We'll give it to you.
And now he's the Los Angeles Ram, I believe.
Oh.
He was like all-purpose. You remember Shipley for Clemson? The guy, like, he was good, but he was not spectacular. Phil Moff has always been better. He's always has more talent, but Shipley always did those things where you're like, all right, yeah, you put your team in winning situations. Schrader did that a lot last year and got to delete a lot of their flaws, and that's gone. Yeah. And while the running back may be better this year with Noel, It ain't looking right. Luther Burden doesn't look as explosive either. I know he'll be a top 15 pick. He'll be in the NFL. He'll probably be on everyone's fantasy team next year, but not looking as good. All right, let's throw this one out here just for fun. Tennessee, fraud or not fraud? I'll start. Not fraud. Not fraud. They played a bad game. You're allowed to have a bad game. You're allowed to be a little bit off. I think they're going to put Florida to the wood chipper this weekend and chop them up. I don't think it's going to be a particularly good game. I know Florida's playing better, but big-ass fraud alert. Big-ass not fraud alert. Not fraud.
I was going to say, can I split it into Tennessee at home versus Tennessee on the road?
Sure. Do whatever you want.
I think Tennessee at home is obviously, that's a really tough beat. Like, it's hard to go into, kneel in and actually, like, steal a W. Tennessee on the road is not the same team. I think that's a team that obviously I can say this having just watched them lose to Arkansas on the road. But yeah, it seems like their shields are down when they're on the road. So that's it. They got a few opportunities to drop some games coming up on the road. Well, they got one. It's Georgia. A lot of games at home still. So okay. I'll stop talking.
I'm going to say not frauds. You got a freshman quarterback. He's going to have some bad games unless I see it become a pattern. Like what we said, like I said with Missouri, right? It was 3 weeks in a row, 2 of barely squeaking out overtime wins, and then you get blown out. Like this was one bad week. You can let that slide, right? If Nico looks bad for a few more weeks, they lose a few more, then maybe. But for now, no, not on Fraud Watch.
Andy, I really don't like the way you phrased that. As a Miami Hurricane fan, hearing you say, squeaking out 2 wins in a row before getting blown out when Miami has Louisville coming up after the bye. So hopefully history doesn't repeat itself there.
One more game before we break it down. I do think it's an important question, right? So polls are flying in. A lot of ranked teams lost. A lot of highly ranked teams have lost so far this season. I think it's safe to say, boys, I'm going to assume if you had to make a top 5 college football, you'd probably have Texas and Ohio State in it. Am I right about that? Like they'll probably be your number 1 and 2. But my curiosity is who is your 3 through 5, right? A lot of big losses, a lot of teams that haven't really shown out yet against like the key opponents. So I will give you my top 5 and give you guys a second because I'm throwing this question at you out of the blue. But Texas, Ohio State, 1, 2, the order doesn't matter to me. I don't give a shit. But for the 3 through 5, I still like Georgia. I think Georgia should probably be your number 3 team. I'd probably put Oregon number 4 because they've done everything to this point to be number 4. And then I have a debate about Penn State, Miami, and I don't know which one. I'm going to say Penn State because Miami is living right on the edge of dumb shit all the time. But I think Miami may have more talent. So I'm going to say Penn State would be my 5th team.
My answer pisses me off so bad.
Okay.
I bet it's the same one I have.
Yeah, so after Texas and Ohio State, it's Georgia, Bama, Clemson. Same 3 teams that have won every natty in the past like decade. Probably partially because of that, but also you're talking about a 1-loss Bama that lost to Georgia. You're talking about a 1-loss Clemson that lost to Georgia. The difference between those losses are as big or as small as you want to make them, right? Like Bama was getting blown out and they came back. Clemson got blown out, did not come back. So there's a difference there. And then, wait, did I get that wrong?
No, you're good. Right. You're good.
Okay. So yeah, I don't know. I just those are teams that have shown me they got it, and I'm not confident that Oregon has it. Although they could creep in there. I think Penn State, get the fuck like that. It's a second tier. It's a tier below. Like they're as high as they're going to be, and they're probably a little higher than they should be. And then Miami is not. As much as I love them, and I'm convinced that they can hang with any team playing their best ball, they don't play their best ball consistently enough, and they're not they're kind of like Penn State. They're not in that tier of teams that strike fear in their opponents the way those other 5 do.
So if we're going based off of power rankings, I hate my answer because it is very, very similar to Al's. It is Georgia, Bama, Tennessee.
Okay.
But if we're
Homer over here,
I hate the SEC. That's why I hate that answer. Four out of the 5 are SEC teams. Excuse me. But if I am including like what I saw on the field, right? If I'm an AP voter or like the College Football Playoff Committee, you've got to include those losses in there. So I think I'd probably go Penn State, Oregon, Georgia. Yeah. Not in that order. Georgia.
In some order of that. That's the same vote I'm in. I think the Georgia-Alabama game is – I understand Georgia beat Alabama. If we're playing transitive property football, Alabama should be ranked higher than Georgia. You can play that game 100 times. I think Georgia probably wins 53 and Alabama wins 47, and the number just came out to 47. Alabama should have blown them out, and then they should have lost that game. So, like, I don't know what the hell to do with that. I think there's too much variance there to do transitive property football. But yeah, it's going to be fun. This month is going to be so sweet. We're going to learn so much, and then we're going to see more upsets happen in November.
Yeah, I mean, the thing too is like we're going to see probably 4 or 5 of these teams lose, like almost certainly.
Yeah.
And we're also going to see all of these teams in the playoffs, regardless.
Yeah,
probably.
Essentially, right? So that's the fun part to me is that we can have this debate. Essentially, it's going to be about seeding and not about who gets in and who doesn't, which never really felt fair before, right? Now it's like you want to debate whether Notre Dame gets in or like or LSU or something like further down the bracket. Like we can have those debates when the time arrives, and like those will be fun to have as well. But they're not like end all be all season breaking discussions where like an undefeated team is not getting in because they're not from the right conference. So
do you think that 11 seeds, so people get real mad at March Madness because they're like, oh, I can't believe you didn't include this team, and they're an 11 seed, right? And it'll be similar in college football because the 12th seed will probably go to the group of 5 winner, but do you think it really matters who the 11 seed is? It's very similar to college basketball because those teams rarely make a run. One of them will make a Sweet 16, like every once in a while. But I don't think a lot of it matters outside of like 4 or 5 teams. I just think it's a TV product. I understand what they're doing, but
yeah, and I mean the fans want to be able to say like we've made the tournament, or go have that one fun game. But yeah, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't matter. They're not winning it anyway, right? You got to play like Penn State on the road probably, and then you've got to go to Georgia, and you've got to play Ohio State, right? Like I don't care how. Exactly.
All right. Well, let's talk about the games that are coming up, Andy. Let's talk about a couple games that'll be a little bit more below the radar, and then we'll get into the absolute heavy hitters, the 3 big ones from this weekend. Mm-hmm. Andy, what game are you looking forward to the most?
I'm really excited to watch Kansas State, Colorado, because Colorado's pulled off the 2 big wins in a row, right? The Baylor Hail Mary, and then beating UCF in Orlando as 14-point dogs. 2 big wins, then the bye week. So you've got time to rest, prepare. The whole world was already more hyped on Colorado than we were. I think this is where it comes back down to earth. I think I can get a good price on Kansas State here. So not an official pick. Those will come out in the article in a few days. But I'm excited to see what happens here. I think Kansas State will win it. But
so Kansas State, with Avery Johnson being able to run the ball, makes this game super interesting. Like, Kansas State has had oddly a proclivity to turn the ball over, which is very unlike Chris Kleiman. And that's what happened against BYU. They turned the ball over like in embarrassing fashion and gave them short fields continuously, and they just got blown out of that game. Had they corrected this issue, and can Colorado do anything about it? If you throw to Travis Hunter's side, there will likely be problems. But if you don't throw to his side, can you just dominate the game by using 2/3 of the field? And that's the question I want to know. I think you're going to see points scored. I think it's going to be a fun game. Do you know what time the game is? This feels like
10:15 on ESPN.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I'm in to watch that in the second half. Actually, I love
that. We will be texting each other.
2:30.
Our families will be asleep, and we will be texting each other.
Yeah. After I've ignored my kids because of the other games that are happening at 7:30, and then I throw them in the bed so I can sit here and gamble with you fucks. I think it could be fun.
Yeah.
That feels like it's going to be like a last possession wins it. And so for me, it feels like take the points. But the line, I think it's 5.5 currently. And that's definitely a number that falls in the range where you could get burned on either end of it. So I don't know.
My favorite game of the week is Penn State USC. This is a styles make fights kind of game. Penn State, you kind of know what you're going to get, and it's a travelable, or it's a style that travels well.
Yeah.
Right? They're going to play defense. They're going to be efficient enough. They're kind of like USC from like the mid 2000s, right? Without Reggie Bush, but like those other teams that were really good on defense and they throw enough passes, get enough points, and then they'd be kicking your ass at the end of the game, right? You'd be like, wow, how did they win by 20? You're like, oh. They just beat us in every facet. Penn State does that really well. I think USC is much improved. And I'd be curious to see all the Big Ten games they've been on the road that they've lost when they played Minnesota and they played Michigan. Can they get up for this game? I think USC is so much more talented they've been over the last couple of years, especially on the defensive side of the ball. This could be a really fun matchup. I'm excited to watch the two styles meet. Okay, let's move on.
No, I agree 100%. It should be fun.
Yeah, I got hung up on your comment about comparing them to like early 2000s USC, and I think
Reggie Bush made them totally different.
I think another difference though is like the dynamism of the play calling is that like USC had like explosive plays, and I feel like Penn State has like a square peg round hole offense where like they have talented players, but they call a boring offense, and you're like, do something with these guys, put them in better positions to make big plays. And maybe that happens this week, but
I disagree. I feel like their offense has been far better this year than they've been in a long time. Kotelnicki has ran the offense against West Virginia. They ran really well against Illinois. They did what they needed to do. They've always do what they need to do, and they don't necessarily need to blow you out in a game to be impressive. And I think they're going to open it up. I think it's going to be a fun game. I think you're going to see more from Aller than you've seen all year.
Yeah, before the Illinois game, they were living and dying on big plays. They actually did have a ton of big plays, especially for a team that, while they're not Iowa, they certainly are more like rely on our defense. Our offense will get enough. They were having a ton of big plays. Illinois shut down the big plays, but they were still averaging like 6 yards a carry, and they just ran it down our throats. I did not get any eyes on the Penn State game this last week, but they've got two really good running backs. I do think it'll be super interesting. I actually think it would have been more interesting last year when USC's offense was a little better, but their defense was terrible. Because that would have been a fun matchup, a fun high-scoring matchup.
And to Al's point, Penn State needs to beat UCLA by more than 16 points. Like, that's not good enough. That UCLA team sucks. They are super bad.
So well, I was going to say, but before Illinois, they beat Kent State and Bowling Green, which is like, that's an example where talented players can make plays on their own, and you're not scheming these dudes into positions to make big plays. These dudes are just using their talent to do it. I might be totally wrong, but that's kind of like the vibe I get from Penn State, generally speaking.
No, that's I think the point. It's going to be a fun game. I'm excited to watch this, right? Because I don't know what the outcome will be. Two other games I'm going to talk about, then I'm going to let Al open up the floor with absolute bangers. Iowa State, West Virginia. West Virginia's not bad. They're not good. They're just kind of West Virginia. They score a lot of points. They make you play tough games, especially when you're at backyard. Iowa State has been playing well, technically. Like they're 5-0 or 6-0. They kept Houston to 0 points, which I thought was an easy task until they played TCU this week. I am curious about the result. I do not have a feel on this. I think the spread is pretty close, right? Especially when you have a 6-0 team come into like a 3-2 team. I don't know if you guys have that number. I can pull it up.
West Virginia's getting 3.
Getting 3. So it all kind of smells like this game could be a trouble spot for Iowa State, just as a heads up. I don't know if you guys have anything else to add. If not, I'll throw in the last one. Is Cam Rising alive? It's a big question. I know Tom Fernelli says they're just going to strap up Adam Driver out there, and he's going to throw a couple passes, and he's going to be like the stunt double for Cam Rising because no one knows if he's alive. If Cam Rising's alive, this game should not be particularly close. If he's not alive, Arizona State has a fighting chance, and I actually kind of like them as a live dog in this situation. So, is he alive? Is he dead? I trust Uncle Kyle in a lot of circumstances, but the other quarterback has not been it, and this looks like the worst Utah I've seen in a long time. So
yeah, real George Glass situation going on with Cam Rising. Yeah.
He's Schrodinger's quarterback because I don't know if he's alive or not at this point.
Yeah, he definitely exists. He just he just went to a different high school. You guys don't know him.
You met him at summer camp?
Yeah, for sure. We were pen pals.
What are your favorite games from this week?
Yeah, so I was looking over the matchups, obviously, and I saw Texas-Oklahoma Red River rivalry, right? Like that is number 1 with a bullet. I thought I was like, oh, that's a great one. Let's see if there's anything that can hang with that. And there's an obvious big one that hangs with that, and another one too. But do you guys have any thoughts about Texas-Oklahoma? I think Oklahoma's 14.5-point dogs at home here. Interesting thought on the spread, and I also think Quinn Ewers might be back for this one.
He's expected to return.
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on how you think this one's going to play out. I don't think it's going to play out well for Oklahoma, but you never know.
Yeah, I haven't put in my plays yet, so I'm not saying anything official. Yeah. But I think Oklahoma has shot themselves in the foot a whole bunch, and I think if they can get out of their own way, they can hang here. It's just a question of whether or not they can do that. So I would lean towards taking the points with Oklahoma, which I'm sure is a shock to all of you. That I like to take the points.
I want to believe that Venables can craft a defense that can stymie Texas, but wanting to believe and actually believing are 2 different things, I think.
Yeah.
It's going to be a great game either way.
My question here is, who is Oklahoma's quarterback? Everyone was excited about Jackson Arnold. He's gone missing. He's milk carton right now because it's been Michael Hawkins last couple of weeks. And I don't know why, because they got rid of Dylan Gabriel in order to get Jackson Arnold more time, and now he's got demoted. So maybe Jackson Arnold isn't good. And I haven't watched a lot of Oklahoma because they've been playing really uninteresting games to me in the grand scheme of things. So I don't know what to do here. I do know Texas is really good, but I would probably lean with Andy in the situation. I would probably lean with Andy in this situation on the 14.5. I would probably play it, and this would be one of those things where I could look like an idiot by the middle of the second quarter.
Yeah, it feels like Oklahoma's decided to take, right? It feels like you want to take 14.5 points against Texas in Oklahoma in a rivalry game against 2 teams that know each other well. But I just cannot. I will be disgusted with myself betting on Oklahoma and then watching Texas rout them 45 to 7 at halftime, and you're like, fuck, that was dumb, But
this one is probably something I'm going to target the total from a betting perspective. I will try to find a juicy way to bet this number. Do you guys, let me look at where the total opened up. It opened up at 54.5. That feels like too many points to me. I could see this being – it's close, but it's probably a couple points too high. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do here. It's a curious game. I'm really excited to watch it. Sorry.
Oklahoma or Texas team total over?
I can fuck with
33.5 looks like the number might be. I don't know. But either way, I think that's going to be a fun one. At least for a half for sure. Then we got Ole Miss LSU. That's a night game. That's in Death Valley. That's going to be fun.
That's my favorite environment in college football. I know I wrote a piece, the only piece I've written here, but there's nothing like LSU at night. Like, it's unrivaled by how intimidating and how loud and how drunk everyone is. And when they play neck and the whole crowd gets wild, like, that is a scene, man. And I know Ole Miss is more talented. I believe Ole Miss is a better football team. But I wouldn't be too fast to bet Ole Miss this weekend, especially if they're laying the points. I do think that LSU environment, laying 2.5 is probably the right number. Like, looking at everything, that number seems right. It's going to be a fucking ball game, though, because it's just like Ole Miss football versus the state of Louisiana is how it feels, right? And it's a totally different ball.
I wonder, let me see, what's the total? Looks like 64.5. Goodness. Okay.
64.5. I would love that under. That's too many points.
I was thinking like the over sounds fun, and then 64.5 is a lot of points.
Oh, I got to bet. I don't know what Ole Miss's team total is. Just hit the over on it. That would be the way I play that, because LSU, I don't know what happened since Brian Kelly's been there. They cannot play defense anymore. But they've always been able to score. Jaden Daniels showed that. Like, Malik Neighbors and Bryant Thomas both look fucking great. And I think they can still score, but their offense is the only defense that they have. And their defense looks worse.
Who scores more points this week, Ole Miss or Texas?
Ole Miss.
Okay. The total is 33.5 for both, looks like. So that's
Venables versus LSU's lackluster defense. I feel better about Venables figuring out some ways to create pressure.
Okay.
So I'll definitely watch this one. I'll have it on a screen somewhere, especially if I have a bet on it. But to me, this is like the battle for who can be the top of the second tier of the SEC.
Sure.
It's like, and even then, if Tennessee's not in the top tier, then Tennessee's clearly the top of the second tier. So it might even be the battle for who's behind Tennessee at the top of the second tier. It's harder for me to get up for it when you look at it that way.
Yeah, who gets the right to lose to another SEC school in the semifinals?
Exactly.
And then obviously the big game this week, Ohio State at Oregon.
That's for last.
Number 2 and number 3. That's a big one. I don't have any thoughts. I don't want to lead this thing off, but
sure,
Matt,
I could start here. Oregon's been playing much better from the beginning of the season, where they looked a little shaky. Yeah. I'm still a little worried about Dylan Gabriel. He still threw 2 picks in the first half against Michigan State, and that's a fine Michigan State defensive side, but that ain't great. What you got coming into town is friggin' great. Like,
step up.
You got the wagon coming into town. Now, Oregon has a very good defense that people are not talking about enough. And they get exposed because by a points basis because Oregon plays so fast. And then they continue to step on the gas. So they do give up points because of possession games. I think this is going to be a spectacular game. I mean, I got to lean on here. I would probably take the points with the home dog at Oregon. Don't love it, but that's kind of the way I'm leaning. I think people are very excited about Ohio State, and they saw Oregon struggle early, and they don't realize that Oregon's very good on defense. Like, this is going to be fun. And if you give me Dylan Gabriel versus Will Howard, I think Dylan Gabriel's better. Now, the wide receivers for Oregon are really good, though. And the running back for Oregon's really good. I get it. There's levels, and Jeremiah Smith is a different level, and Abuke is a different level. but Oregon ain't slacking, right? Like they're probably the next dogs up when it comes to like that pure talent on the outside.
Yeah, I think this will be a fun game. I'm with you on Oregon. It's almost one of those instances where people saw them struggle in those first two games and just kind of like wrote them off. I know they're ranked 3, but so like it's not people writing them off, but people aren't talking about them in the way that they're talking about the other teams at the top.
Like it feels like inevitable that Oregon's going to drop one, and it feels like Ohio State's on a train
death march
to the championship game kind of thing.
I was hoping that would lead to us getting a ton of points with Oregon here. It's only 4.5, I think. But I think I'd still lean with Matt. I'd take the points with the home team. This is another one that could end up being like that Texas-Oklahoma, where you feel really dumb because they're down by 27 at halftime. But yeah, I think there's value there.
This feels like a good live betting spot if Ohio State scores early and you get Oregon like 8.5, 9, because I don't see this being it can be a blowout. Ohio State has that capability to make it a blowout, but Oregon is fucking talented. Like I know we do a lot of East Coast bias and big conference bias, and I know Oregon's on the other coast. Their defense is great. Their wide receivers are great. Jordan James as a running back is great. They have a lot of super talented things. If Dylan Gabriel can just manage the game in the Bo Nix style and not make the idiot mistake, they're a live dog here, and that's got to be – they have to be respected. As the number 3 team, it's crazy to say that, but I feel like the perception is Ohio State is so dominant.
Yeah. A couple things. I think the move here is not to bet the game. I mean, you got the number 2 team in the country, the number 3 team in the country. Just watch it and enjoy it. You know what I mean? Like having money on the line, rooting for different things, and it's like this might be like the game to just like single out and be like, I'm not going to bet anything on it. I'm just going to watch the best college football game of the year to date and hope that we end up with one as good as all signs sort of indicate. The second thing is, to Matt's point, when you've got 2 teams with great offensive talent and great defenses, it always comes down to the quarterback, right? So you've got Will Howard versus Dylan Gabriel. Which quarterback would you back in that situation? All things being equal, who's the guy you think can make the plays and not make the mistakes? And honestly, that's an easier way to pin down the same hard answer, which, I don't know if it gets any closer to an answer, I guess, is my point. But that's how I like to look at these matchups.
Great game. And I agree with you. And I'm going to transition this seamlessly to, I think Al's right. Enjoy that game. You know what game's going on at the same time? Oregon State, Nevada. And that leads me to my best bet. While you have the big screen watching this, just hit the over. Oregon State, Nevada. Over 48.5. That is way too few points. I would bet it up to 51, and I'd still take the over. So 48.5 is really, really sweet. That's my favorite play of the week. That is my single leg parlay bet of the week. Andy, what are you doing?
I'm going to take Colorado State. They're getting a couple points at home against San Jose State. San Jose State's played some pretty good games, and Colorado State is coming off an overtime loss to Oregon State. But Colorado State at home, getting the points, I think there's value.
Al, what is your favorite bet, buddy?
So I've got a couple that I'm trying to determine between. I think one is Pitt -3.5 at home against a Cal team that just suffered a brutal loss at home, emotional loss to Miami. I think that's a great spot to lay a short spread with Pitt. Pitt, a team that can hang a lot of points up, even though Cal's got a really good defense. Really felt like that game sort of short-circuited some of their best players on defense at the end. So yeah, I really like Pitt this week. Another one, similar spot. Kentucky laying 13.5 at home against Vandy, who just had the game of their lives. Kind of hard to get back in the flow of things and get ready for the next opponent. So I kind of like laying it with Kentucky there. But for the purposes of this, I'm going to say Pitt because it's a shorter spread. Pitt minus 3.5.
Yeah,
I like that a lot. You got Cal traveling across the country too, right? Which is
What time is the game? Is it a noon game? Or did they do like the reverse fuck you over like they did in Miami?
I doubt it. I'm sure it's like a 9:30 p.m. kick. Let's see. Pitt 3:30. So yeah, there's
so it's a fine time. It's a football time. Yeah, I like that. That number almost stinks. It's almost a little stinky at 3.5. Let's go to the money line plays of the week. You boys have been doing God's work recently. Andy, who do you like on the money line this week?
So I wouldn't hit any of these too hard. I don't like crazy love any of them, but Middle Tennessee, South Florida, UCLA, and Oregon, I think are all worth a little look in, possibly including in a money line. Yeah, line round robin. There we go.
Money line.
Money line. I guess that's
Al, what do you like?
I tried to find ones that are a little juicier this week, so a little more risk for a little more reward. UNC, they're plus 185, hosting Georgia Tech. USC is plus 165, hosting Penn State. I don't know if I like USC to win that one, but I think at that value, it's worth a shot. And then the last one I have is Fresno State. They are plus 150 hosting Wazoo. That's it. I feel like at least one of those should win. Although,
I like that. All right, I'll give you two that I'm considering. Air Force came off a game against Navy where they played a good Navy team. Air Force is a dog I'd strongly consider in this circumstance against New Mexico. I know Bronco has that team playing okay, but that seems like a winnable game. There's not going to be a ton of juice on that. Also, I don't think UTSA is better than Rice. Not at home. I don't think they're better than Rice. I would bet Rice in this situation. And that one is gonna be hold on, boy. But I do think Rice could win that game. Those would be the two plays I would have.
Sweet.
All right, boys.
I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, we talked about all the big games. Anything else you guys want to end on?
Check out the article. Football starts on Tuesday this week. So
yeah.
Wow, we have some football going on. I know Conference USA, I think, is the one that's starting to do Tuesday games until Maction comes. So it's Conference USA in October, and then when the temperature drops real low, that's when Maction slides right in there on that your Tuesday night. So you're going to have a lot of football coming up.
We've got, I think, 55 straight days of football. So apologies in advance if you're getting an article on a Wednesday or Thursday that has picks for a Tuesday night game that, we maybe didn't get out to you in time. But we're going to do our best to get those picks out as soon as we can. And I could just enjoy 55 days of football, man. No matter what, there's a game on.
And to Al's point, the best way to enjoy the picks is to go to singlelegparlay.com. Either read them, my favorite way, hit that subscribe button. Just put your email address in there. We're going to sell it to black market sites in China and Russia, but don't worry about that part. We're also going to send you money directly to your inbox. And by that, I mean, we'll give you our top picks. And clearly, we're not going to sell your information. But we're going to give you your top picks, and then you can do with it what you will. All the bets, and then you can track us and then troll us if we suck or congratulate us when we kick ass, because that shit is coming. Positive numbers are coming. We had regression last week, except Andy did all right. Positive numbers rolling forward, and I feel good about it.
I had the idea. I think there's if you download the Substack app and you subscribe to our Substack there, I believe there's a chat feature. I've considered tinkering with occasionally, sending out a live play or a last minute play. So yeah, do that. Let us know if you're on that. And then maybe we can start sending you some plays directly. You just get a boom, ping on your phone, play this play, and then you play it, and then you make money, and then you thank us.
Yeah, I'd love that.
Sounds
that.
like
So
fun.
go to Single Leg Parlay, do that. We love you all. We appreciate all the support. You guys have been, our subscribers ship has been growing. It's been awesome. So until next time, NFL is coming out. We got some NFL plays. Make sure you listen to the podcast, and cheers, everybody.
Thanks for listening, boys. Cheers. Bye. The end.
Thanks for listening to the newly rebranded Single Leg Parlay podcast. Visit our website at www.singlelegparlay.com, where you can read more of our thoughts, as well as subscribing to our newsletter to have our picks delivered straight to your inbox each week. And don't forget to follow Single Leg Parlay on all of your favorite social media platforms. Cheers!